What up? Alex Earnest here, and I wanted to start a new series with you all where we talk about what I've been reading, sort of book club of sorts, but something that lets me have the freedom to follow what's most engaging for me, but also share what I learned from that reading and share my love for that reading with you all. So the first one we're going to do is going to be a reading recap over Thomas Pynchon's Inherent Vice. I actually didn't read this. I listened to it on a very long drive in 2 days, so I probably didn't get the most out of it, but I have the book if I ever want to reread it, and I probably will at some point because I really loved it. It follows Doc Sportello, who's a private eye in the late 60s, early 70s, the end of the sort of hippie generation, and he's in California around the Hollywood area, and he travels around a lot too, goes to different places, including Las Vegas at one point, following this sort of goose egg trail down after request for help, and I loved it, but I think the really beautiful thing about Pynchon, besides like his prose and his language just being phenomenal, like so good and just so smooth and just so inventive, is that he has very rich relationships between characters. So whether that's like tons of friendships between the main character and side characters, or new relationships that develop, or even relationships between side character and side character. And these relationships sometimes have like they have a past that's doesn't happen during the book, but they know each other and they know about each other, and it creates this feeling of this sort of community or network where characters are intricately linked not only with the main character, but they're linked with all of the other characters, which gives it this feeling of sort of like cohesive world, like a real world, as opposed to just sort of like something that's like kind of artificially popping out of the ground to support the main character, a simulation for them as they're going around. It feels like a world that the character is participating in. And in this one, the main character is a fairly kind of helpful, wholesome. I found him very likable. He's sort of seems to be out to try to help people, but is not egotistical at all about that, or like really trying to like make that into a thing or hold himself up for a certain kind of standard. He's just sort of doing what he feels right, and he doesn't always take people up on the help, and he'll accept payments and certain things along the way, but he's just trying to get by and do what feels right to him. And I thought that was he was interesting to watch, his sort of relaxed nature that he went about doing this with, and the way he never made it into like too big of a deal, even though like it gets to like really extremes where like even has to like shoot people and stuff like that. But the kind of, and in the kind of way where he's almost like just kind of like going out and making friends and then just helping his friends out, and that's just kind of the whole way he lives his life. It was really interesting to me to think about that kind of calm, relaxed way that he goes about it. And I think also just in general, like Pynchon has a real, like, he's famous for being like a paranoid, like very paranoid, and he is very paranoid. Like there's a lot of paranoia in this book, a lot of, like weird plot lines and shadow corporations for the shadow corporations and fronts for the front. And there's a detective that's sort of a counterpart character to the main character. His name's Bigfoot Bjornsson, something like that. And he ends up he's forever continually on this chase, and he tries to inspire Doc to go along with him on this sort of endless chase. But Doc ends up saying no. He hits a point where he's kind of helped the people that he's trying to help, and that was what he was trying to do. And he just calls it quits there. He just lets it go, and he doesn't try to pursue it any further to find out all the grand secrets and every last little bit. He understands that the trail is sort of endless and doesn't make the attempt to go into there. Or you could also say maybe he's too afraid to do it, which maybe. But in kind of like settling for that, and like developing those, and like coming back for those relationships that he has with those other characters, it feels like its own sort of wisdom and its own sort of like moral philosophy. A lot of people compare David Foster Wallace and Thomas Pynchon and talk about the sort of where David was really good about bringing up certain issues of isolation and meaninglessness, and was talking about trying to find a sort of answer for those kind of questions and the looking for the answer. And the older I get, the more it feels like, in a way, Pynchon has sort of already offered his answer to that, and his answer is in those relationships. There's, for being someone who's like kind of like perverted, which you may be genuinely, but I haven't read Gravity's Rainbow yet, so I just don't know. But I mean, I read Against the Day, which definitely had stuff, but in that book and in this book, it ends up feeling like the relationships are sort of the redeeming factor. They are the thing that is in this sort of endless quest and these endless like manipulations that are occurring, and the struggles for power and plots and conspiracies and all of this stuff happening. It seems that the only real thing worth, the kind of place you can settle in and be like, well, this is whatever is going on, whatever I can't solve, and whatever limited power I may even have to affect change in these sort of things, if it's possible at all to be rid of them, I am going to live for these relationships, and these relationships and this love is the value that is gonna be the source of meaning. He never outright declares that it's a source of meaning, and maybe even people smarter than me would say he says it's not a redeeming source. But I think it's just a feeling I get from reading them, and a feeling I get like the characters have a warmth for each other, and I feel like that warmth is its own sort of moral argument about what to do in the face of all of these horrors of existence. And that's something and just the depth that he creates with those side characters and that kind of feeling of the world, and specifically in their relationships to one another. It just always is something that really inspires me as a writer, because it's so much easier just to have it where it's like you're a main character going into a place that they've never been before, and everyone just springs up. They have a little bit of kind of background or a sense of like being in the world, but their only relationship that you ever have any time with is the relationship to the main character. And and it makes it so then it can feel almost at times like they're sort of just like AIs or like NPCs during the main character's quest. And I think the really great writers have a way of making the side characters never feel like the NPCs, just serving the functions of the main character. And it's cool whenever the side characters have lives that are just as intricate and rich as the main character and their own kind of compelling problems. So I'm just trying something new here. I'm still learning how to talk about books in this format, but I hope you can feel some of the love I have for these works and these ideas, and I hope that as I keep doing it, I can get better at sharing it with you, and I hope you enjoy it and you love to read, and maybe you want to check this out after. So thank you very much. I love you. Thank you for checking it out. Like, comment, subscribe. It helps more people see it, so I appreciate it. Also makes me feel good. So I hope you're having a great day. Goodbye.